Welcome to Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. Your Day with a Podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at wyomingadvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Well, drier air is going to be creeping in, and at least in the interior west and the Rockies, we'll see less in the way of thunderstorm coverage today. It's going to be out on the plains again. In the Dakotas, parts of Nebraska, down into the southern plains is where the activity will be. But we'll see scenes like this out there. Boy, it's a good time to see the wildflowers up high. Here's a great shot. We have another shot from the flat tops to show you. Now, we do have a small wave that's been kind of hanging around Oregon and Northern California for several days. It's going to get a push eastward as we head on into later tonight and tomorrow. And in on its own, this little wave will produce some showers and thunderstorms overnight tonight and into the day tomorrow. We'll show you where. Then a cold front comes in behind it. So we kind of have two systems, a little Pacific wave, then a cold front coming out of Canada. Behind that cold front, upslope, much cooler temperatures will happen in many areas Friday and Saturday. Kind of a little bit of a unique event for early July coming on in. Then another cold front comes in next week. Now, we do expect a very quick rebound in temperatures behind the front Sunday into Monday, and that will lead to just a return to warm summer weather again. But another cold front is still looking likely. We're still seeing it, at least the potential for it, coming in around Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So what that will do is that will suppress monsoonal moisture and keep it well down to the south. With that being said, I want to talk about another flash flood situation that happened yesterday down into Ruidoso, New Mexico. And that was a bad one. And we'll kind of highlight kind of the things that came together for that, because there are a lot of things to draw on with what happened yesterday in New Mexico and what happened last week with the Texas floods. Boy, there's another shot. This was one that was deep in the bowels of my email that I found, sent just on, I think, July 2nd. Boy, look at those wildflowers in the flat tops of northwest Colorado. A shot yesterday from a thunderstorm complex that developed around Alliance, Nebraska yesterday. It was another day of photogenic thunderstorm activity, this time just a little bit further to the east out into the plains. And here's a shot from the night before from that very photogenic storm in southeastern Wyoming. Nice shot there of the moon highlighting a thunderstorm cloud in the Black Hills of South Dakota. The satellite photo this morning shows a couple of things slightly different. As we've been noting, this drier air was going to nudge further and further east, and you can see it there in the orange. But the light gray areas show where the deeper moisture is. This deeper moisture here associated with the low that's over Oregon. And then here's a subtropical moisture plume and deeper moisture down here in the Baja of Mexico. So there's that shift eastward of drier air, which we can see on the precipitable water chart for later this afternoon. And you can see that tongue of moisture getting into Utah, Southern California, and Arizona there. So that drier air will make the thunderstorm activity further east out into the plains. But you can see the Dakotas down along this axis here, where that axis of moisture will be, where it will be showers and thunderstorms, and scattered showers and thunderstorms associated with that Oregon low will be back here. And this is where the severe weather risk is going to be, out into the plains. And you can see where the drier air is going to limit thunderstorm development today in many areas across the central Rockies. As we go into this afternoon, the 500 millibar chart shows that Oregon low kind of riding along the top of this high pressure ridge. And then up here is the formation of that trough and the cold front coming in behind it. By tomorrow noon, that upper level low is right over Wyoming. The front is getting better formed up here in Alberta and Saskatchewan. And we've got high pressure building in the eastern Pacific. And what's interesting is when we go forward, we'll have a ridge in the eastern Pacific, which is a configuration that you don't get too often in the summer, at least as we get into this part of July. Now, that wave in Oregon overnight tonight is going to produce a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity in southwestern Wyoming and maybe even into the Salt Lake area as it heads eastward. So this is kind of sneaky. one of these little sneaky systems that is like, where did that thunderstorm come overnight? Well, that's why. Tonight we could have a little bit of thunderstorm activity in southwestern Wyoming, northwest Colorado, and northern Utah as it heads in. Then even into the morning hours of Thursday, that system goes right down Interstate 80. So showers and thunderstorms Thursday will be off to an early start, especially in these areas here that I'm showing you. Then by tomorrow afternoon, that wave is going to cause strong thunderstorms. There's going to be some strong thunderstorms again across the Dakotas, eastern Wyoming, parts of western Nebraska, and the Front Range of Colorado, down here into the deeper monsoonal moisture into Arizona and New Mexico and the panhandles again. So the risk of severe weather tomorrow is going to be in those yellow and darker green areas. And that little area could end up getting shifted a little bit further west, probably will be. As we go into the day on Friday, that little Oregon wave is now into Iowa, eastern Nebraska, but here's the cold front that's going to be coming through during the early part of Friday. And the air behind this system, as we showed you, is impressively cool. And it will produce Friday another round of afternoon and evening showers and thunderstorms. Along the frontal boundary and out east, there'll be moisture coming on through, so there'll be some strong thunderstorms out here into the western Corn Belt. Then as we go into the nighttime hours of Friday, this is from Friday evening to midnight Saturday night. We may see some thunderstorms, maybe some strong ones, along the I-25 corridor, Colorado, from the Colorado border up into southeastern Wyoming. Kind of need to watch this Friday evening as the potential for a few strong thunderstorms. Then behind the front, upslope develops. And with the amount of cold air that's associated with this front, this is for 3 p.m. Mountain Time on Friday. Look at those temperatures along the Wyoming-Montana border. Pretty impressive cold front. Shows the cooler air spilling into the Front Range of Colorado as well. Yes, I'm showing you potential for snow. I know it's going to be July 12th when this is going to happen, 11th and 12th, but this shows the potential that it will be cold enough in the high Bighorns, high Wind Rivers, Beartooth Mountains again. Could it snow? I think it probably will. Will it be a lot? No. But that's an impressive cold front for this time of year. These are the temperature anomalies. That's a classic upslope cool down. You can see there in eastern Colorado, northeastern New Mexico, up into eastern Wyoming and Nebraska. So temperatures Friday and Saturday will take quite a dip. It's going to be pretty warm in many areas today, but reversing those trends at least east of the divide there for Friday and Saturday. By Sunday into Monday, this is into the early morning hours of Monday, we have a high pressure ridge building up into the eastern Pacific, up into the Gulf of Alaska. Remember, when ridge is there, the west goes in the fridge. And so this is going to form another cold front, a pretty strong one, late in the weekend and early next week that's poised to sweep through again. Notice that the high is more into the eastern Pacific. We don't have the high over here, so the monsoonal flow is really interrupted here, although some of it's going to get trapped, as I'll show you here in a minute, in far southern Arizona and far southern New Mexico. As that front comes through by late Tuesday afternoon, it's impressive. The front is very impressive for the middle of July. And as it comes on through, it's going to be very impactful. It's going to be a busy week next week, especially in the northern plains, this part of the world here for severe weather. It's also going to cause plenty of weather here in the west as it comes on through. Look at these temperature anomalies that we have on Tuesday. That is, we're talking 25 to 30 degrees or more below the seasonal average. Will this happen? Well, it's going to happen to some extent. Whether it's this extreme, we'll just have to wait and see. And then classic deep upslope by Wednesday of next week, leading to some very cool temperatures along and east of the divide. Notice west of the divide here, there's some pockets of blue. This front, if it comes in as advertised, may be strong enough to get on the other side of the divide. We'll see. We'll just have to watch it. Not saying it's going to happen, but this is our thing to watch next week as being a weather maker. Now, by late Wednesday afternoon and evening, these frontal systems do bring in a good shot of dry air in behind them, and they can suppress the monsoon. However, this front may be so strong that it draws moisture up behind it as the main frontal system comes in the plains and you get return flow. So the frontal system may actually produce western slope showers and thunderstorms as it comes on through. And we can see that. This is by Wednesday afternoon. The dry air behind the front kind of carves out this little scoop here, but you can see where the moisture is after the front makes its passage, and it may curve back around this way. So we get showers and thunderstorms west of the divide with this front, and initially east of the divide as the front goes through, it's going to cause a lot of weather. So by late next week, so this is by Saturday the 19th, we see a reversal. The high here is gone. It's replaced by low pressure, then the high comes back into the Four Corners area. So what that's going to likely do is start to bring back precipitation chances and monsoonal moisture around the 19th and 20th, or maybe a little bit before then. So that'll be the next monsoonal moisture plume. Speaking of monsoonal moisture, and there you can see it, by next weekend, reaching all the way back up again. And this axis could be west, it could be further east. This is for display purposes only, but the pattern returns to bring that monsoonal moisture back. Now let's talk about what happened in southern New Mexico yesterday. Another deadly flash flood situation in the western and southwestern United States. Just horrific video coming in down there. Now, there were fires in this area last year and a lot of burn scars, and this is a classic situation that happens in the western United States. You get wildfires, then the next year, if the monsoon really comes in strong, which it has, flash flooding is always going to be a concern. This is the way of life in this part of the country. It's just something you have to remind yourself of, and it's always a risk. So wildfires cause problems down the road later. Now, this all started, and we have shown this graphic to you before, and we have to really give a lot of credit to the Canadian model. This was made on April 1st of this year. So this goes way back, and we were showing you this earlier, that the Canadian model was showing that it was going to be a more robust monsoon season. And certainly that's been the case. Now, I know some of you out there said my monsoon's been a no-soon, but I can tell you, as what we're witnessing right now, it has been very robust, and it's only July 9th, and there's more of a monsoon season to go, a lot more. So we saw the signs, and also we were showing you this. And this is a good example of why sometimes we have to get ourselves weaned away from modeling all the time. And there's an obsession, and I will tell you this happens in the field of meteorology and climatology, that only we should forecast or just do what the models say. But sometimes you just got to go back to old school and go back to just good physics and good science. Good science tells us that when the sea surface temperature anomalies in the Gulf of California and the Gulf over here reach a certain threshold, historically that means there's going to be more water vapor in the air, the monsoon's going to be deeper, and it's going to be more intense. This is something that was telegraphed by the Canadian model, and then this is what we would call observational weather forecasting. You observe what is happening, then you say, how will that affect the weather? Forget the models. Just go on what you're observing. And you can see how warm now the sea surface temperature anomalies are. And again, going back to research, it says that we've hit the threshold for a very strong potential for monsoon. That doesn't mean the monsoon in your backyard is going to be what you want it to be, but it's going to affect areas in a larger area than previous years. And look at the radar estimates that we've shown here. Just tremendous amount of rain. For those of you familiar with the area, this is the highway that comes out of Roswell, takes you on the way to Alamogordo, over to Holloman Air Force Base in White Sands, and the Sacramento Mountains here is where the thunderstorms developed, and they actually moved from the north to the south. And it wasn't just one thunderstorm, it was many moving. We talked about training, where thunderstorms will cover the same ground all the time. Now, let's go back, because this is where we can talk about the Texas floods and whether or not the forecasts were good or not. I don't want to talk about the Texas floods because it became so ultra political. It's gone into crazy town. It's gone to crazy town. Both sides of the aisle have gone crazy town. This was the prediction of excessive rainfall outlook, and you can see the excessive rainfall outlook was there. Now let's talk a little bit about the modeling. The National Weather Service in Albuquerque identified this area early in the day as a possible flash flooding. And they did it. They forecasted it correctly. It was forecasted well. And as we take a look at the modeling, this is a good example of why we always say take things with a grain of salt when we show the modeling. This is the European model forecast for the day yesterday. Doesn't look like much rain, does it? Does it mean the European model was wrong? Not necessarily. The European model was saying this is where thunderstorms will form, but the European model is a global model. Global models, which try to predict the weather for the entire Earth, cannot have the resolution to really focus in on the very small scale thunderstorm. Thunderstorms are very, very small scale. They're not global scale. They're very small scale. Global models aren't designed to do that. So you can't look at a global model and say, well, this was wrong. It did highlight where thunderstorms were going to form. That's why you got to use a variety of tools. The ICON model coming out of Germany did the same thing. It was predicting thunderstorms, but it wasn't predicting flash floods. Nor will the model do that, nor is that model supposed to. And the same thing with the GFS model, which actually did a bit of a better job highlighting it. But the National Weather Service in Albuquerque was able to use what we would call regional models, models that take into account small scale topography better, smaller scale weather events like thunderstorms. They're able to forecast them better. Are they able to forecast them perfectly? Absolutely not. But this model right here, which the National Weather Service is calling experimental, is going to actually go from non-experimental to being used in 2026. Early in the day, it was accurately predicting what was going to happen in the afternoon. And this is a good reason why this is why you need a local forecast office, because they're able to know that the local terrain effects and the local modeling was going to highlight this very well, and the monsoonal moisture was very, very deep. So global models are not supposed to predict flash floods. The regional models do better. What the global models can do is predict 2 weeks in advance, or try to. Regional models can't. You might say, well, why can't they run the regional model out to 15 days? Well, there's a big problem in modeling called feedback. The smaller scale you try to forecast the weather for over time, you end up introducing noise into the model, and so it does not become a good tool. These models forecast for the next hour, the next 6 hours, the next 48 hours, very small scale. These models were used in the Texas flood, but the larger scale models missed it. So a lot of folks get the impression that the models missed it, and they did in terms of the bigger scale, but smaller scale, those models do help out quite a bit. Have yourself a good Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.